right, Shalom. First and foremost, I would like to give all praise and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakakwadash, and double honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS who rule well, teach well, being great examples to his younger brothers, and peace and blessings and salutation to the hopeful elect out there pushing his word and truth and in sincerity across the four winds in the name of Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai. Pushing to get up out of here. Shalom to the hopeful leg, the believers, the listeners who have came back to the obedience of the scriptures through faith in Yahweh Shem Shai. All right, and what I want to get into, this morning, is dealing with, he that gathereth in the summer, and it's the time of harvest, So we have to understand in the spirit, all right, that it's time, all right, we're coming into the time for the ultimate harvest. Okay, when Yahweh Shai is going to come and harvest, the elect from the earth, So we're in the time that the Lord, has put his men, within the vineyard, to cultivate the vineyard with his word to get them ready for the harvest, man. So what we're doing, we're laboring, and getting, as we're being, cultivated, we're cultivating others, okay, for this great harvest, Yahweh Shai, is coming with, So this is the time, to labor, and to, because as we want to be joint heirs with Yahweh Shai, well, it starts now, in aiding, okay, the spirit, because the spirit of Yahweh Shai is on us to cultivate, as we're being cultivated to cultivate the rest of the church, okay, for the time of harvest, man. And when you go into Proverbs, all right, 10, okay, and 5, it says, he that gathereth in the summer is a wise son, but he that sleepeth in the harvest is a son that causes shame. Yeah, so we don't want to be asleep, which is inactive, during this season, because this is a season of this word going out and gathering, okay, the hopeful elect, for the great harvest at the return of Yahweh Shai. When he comes, he scrapulates his, just as you would extrapolate your harvest from the fields, the fields are likened unto the earth. Okay, well, he's come to extrapolate the harvest of the elect from the earth. Okay, when you go into, let's go to Genesis real quick. Okay, he spoke about what the gathering. Okay, Genesis chapter 49 and 10, it said, the scepter shall not depart from Judah, nor the lawgiver from between his feet. Okay, which this is speaking of Yahweh Shai, who's going to be a king and priest. All right, the king and the high priest. Okay, the scepter. All right, the office of king. All right, king of kings. All right, and the lawgiver, which is the high priest. Okay, it says, until Shiloh come. Okay, until Shiloh come, which goes into tranquility, prosperity. All right, was just speaking of Yahweh Shai. You see, and it says, and unto him shall the gathering. Okay, you see that, shall the gathering of the people be. Okay, and you go into the scriptures, as we know, Yahweh Shai comes in the volume of the book. So when we speak about, all right, the gathering, okay, let's go here. So Rock 39. Goes to Rock 30. No, the book of Baruch. Because it talks about us being gathered how, because Shiloh is speaking of Yahweh Shai. Well, when you go to the book of Baruch, okay, this is Baruch 4 and 37. It says, lo, thy sons come, whom thou sentest away. They come gathered from the east to the west, okay, by the word of the Holy One, rejoicing in the glory of the Most High. Okay, so this word is gathering, is cultivating the vineyard, okay, the Lord Yahweh Shai's vineyard, okay, for the harvest, man. You know, and the scriptures say he that sleep during the time of harvest is a son that causes shame. No, this is the time to be active in this thing, man. As the Lord has given us utterance, this understanding, this Holy Spirit, he's given us the talents to go work in the vineyard. Okay, we have the tools needed to go work in the vineyard, man, to cultivate the crops for harvest, man. Okay, which is the elect. The elect are likened into what? Tender herbs. Okay, the best garden. Scripture say, well, I will water my best garden with what? This doctrine, man. Okay, and it's cultivating a remnant, you see, for the time of harvest. All right, so to Shiloh shall be the gathering of the people. Then it spoke in Baruch about what? Lo, thy sons whom thou sentest away, Baruch 4:37. So we were scattered for disobedience. All right, but as we're going into this word where we're learning obedience, by faith, so the Lord has us learning obedience for the sake of us being gathered again, okay? Gathered together from the east to the west by the word, okay? The command, you see, and the command of that gathering is in the book. You see, the Lord, all right, the prophecy is the Lord's commanding of deliverance, man, okay? And it says, by the word of the Holy One, rejoicing in the glory of the Most High. Okay, and who's going to carry out that command of that gathering? Yahweh Shai. Okay, which he is the word. You see? So even when you go, like I mentioned, all right, when you go here, it's the book of Sirach, chapter 24. All right, this is the book of Sirach, chapter 24, and verse, I started at 29, it's speaking of wisdom. It said, for her, speaking of wisdom, for her thoughts are more than the sea, and her counsel profounder than the great deep. I also came out as a brook from a river, and as a conduit into a garden. I said, I will water my best garden, and will water abundantly my garden bed. And lo, my brook became a river, and my river became a sea. I will yet make doctrine to shine as the morning, and will send forth her light afar off. So this doctrine is being sent afar off via the will, and what is gathering is watering the best garden, which is the elect, getting them ready to be gathered. Okay, in the time of harvest, man. You see? So that best garden is the elect. You see? And it is being watered with this doctrine, being cultivated with this doctrine, man. Okay? Because Yahweh Shai, he's just coming to gather, he's coming to reap a harvest, man. With the talents that he's giving us, he's expecting us to cultivate as we're being cultivated in the spirit to cultivate, all right, the rest of the garden, man. Which is the hopeful elect with what? This word, with this instruction. You see? So when you go here, Yahweh Shai made the point. Okay? This is the book of Matthew. All right, chapter 9. All right, this is the book of Matthew, chapter 9. In verse 35, it says, and Yahweh Shai went about all the cities and villages teaching in their synagogues, which he had to travel, and teach in these different places. But see, we're able to, the word is, the internet is doing the traveling for us now. We're able to, just press record, upload, go live or however. But we're able to send this word forward through the internet now. The internet is doing the traveling. Okay? Because the time is short. Okay? And this gospel has to go throughout the earth, man. You see? So this system, like as the elder apostles get into, the internet is doing the heavy lifting. Okay? So as we teach, it's like going through different villages and cities and states and countries. Okay, Yahweh Shai had to physically travel, to teach this word. It said that Yahushua went about all the cities and villages, teaching in their synagogues and preaching the gospel of the kingdom and healing every sickness and every disease among the people. But when he saw the multitudes, he was moved with compassion on them because they fainted and were scattered abroad as sheep having no shepherd, man, because they had no leadership. You know, the leadership was trash at the time, man. You know, the Sanhedrin, okay, they wasn't cultivating, okay, the people with true doctrine with his word. You know, you had the Sadducees, they was, they wanted to be Romans. Okay, they was turned out by the Romans, man. They was, caught up in, the delicate lifestyle, the luxuries of Rome. You go into the Sadducees, which that included the high priest. Pharisees, they was trying to be, all right, so technical with the law, over righteous, and a lot of them was hypocrites. They had weaponized the law. You see? So you had the leadership, just had the people out there. One leadership, weaponizing the law, adding tradition as a law, and Jake couldn't be cultivated. They were just constantly condemned. Okay? I say Jake was adding to the law, making tradition the law, and just doing too much, man, overbearing. And that's not an environment for cultivation. You see, grace creates an environment for it to be cultivated in righteousness in his word. Okay? But Jake was overbearing, with the law. And then you had, like I say, the Sadducees. See, them niggas just balling with Rome. Okay? So the common man was, the common Israelite was just being neglected. Either being destroyed by the law, okay? Or just completely neglected. You see? So when Yahushua seen this, he said he had compassion on the people. Then he said unto his disciples, the harvest, you see that, truly is plenteous, but the laborers are few. So the harvest is plenteous, but the laborers are few. Okay? So here it is, you have a remnant that's ready to be cultivated in this time. Okay? But the laborers are few. So Yahushua was like, pray ye therefore, all right, the Lord of the harvest, that he will send forth laborers into his harvest, man. And that's why one of the main things, like Apostle Hart pushes, is that, hey, we're teaching so other men can go and teach and go and labor. Okay? And cultivate and work in the garden, the vineyard. Okay? The Lord's best garden, which is the hopeful elect. Okay? So we want to be those wise sons, that gather in the summer, that don't miss the season. This the season of work, man. You see, we got rest forever coming in the kingdom, but right now, this the season of work. You see? So, that's the point. Just wanted to get into that, Lord will. You brothers, all right, and you few sisters edified once again. We'll give all praise and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushua, Bahashem, Rakakadash, and double honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS who rule well, teach well, being great examples to his younger brothers. And peace and blessings, salutations, and hopefully, shalom.